welcome to Sarah's Stamping Retreat. Today I'm going to be creating 3 cards using these 2 stamp sets. So we've got Perfect Poinsettias and Ho Ho Holly, both from Polkadoodles. And I just thought it'd be nice to create a few cards using kind of more flowers and foliage to create something a little bit different. So I'm going to start with this stamp set here. And if you've been following me for a while, then you'll know that I love a wreath card. So that's going to be the first card that I create today. And I'm going to use my stamp positioner, and I'm going to use this wreath template. Now I'm not going to make this today because I've made it a couple of times before on video, so I'll just link to a video that has it on below. But you use this to position your paper. So this particular wreath template has a 4-inch square in it. So I've got a 4-inch square piece of white cardstock. This is Nina Solar White 110 pound cardstock. So I'm going to pop that in there like that. And then I'm going to use these stamps. So I'm going to position this just at the top of my paper, and it actually goes off the top of my paper. So I'm just inking it up with the Hunter Green ink from Altenew. And then I'm going to turn it one place so it's on the diagonal. And I'm going to stamp again. I'm going to turn and stamp. So now I've got this kind of spray type wreath, and I'm going to take the Heartbeat and Vineyard Berry markers out of the Island Garden Altenew marker set. And I'm just going to colour in all those berries, so I'm going to colour them all kind of different reds. Usually I like to use the brush end, but because these circles are quite small, I'm just using this nib end. You can see it's quite a fine nib, actually a lot more useful than some of the other markers that I've used, which have, some of them have kind of quite a wide bullet nib, which I don't personally find that useful for card making. So I really like the nib on the end of these. In case you've not seen these before, they've got this nice kind of brush style nib, that end, and then they've got this one, this end. And like I say, I usually use the brush end, but for this I just thought be nice to use this end because I'm doing some quite fine colouring. So then I want to use my hot foil machine for the sentiment. So I'm going to use this Merry Christmas sentiment. And I want it to go in the middle there. So I'm just stitching this on. You see the power light coming on. We can use it when that turns to green. So if you're new to hot foiling or you fancy having a go, you might find my unboxing video quite useful, where I show you what you get in the box, I show you how to use it, and show you how I try different ways to configure it to my machine, because I have a Sizzix die cutting machine, not a Spellbinders one. So I'm going to cut some of this red foil, and so I'm just going to lay this on so I know roughly how big it needs to be. Then I'm just going to cut it around that. And I've just cut off the corners as well because I don't want it to overfoil. So then I'm just going to take some of my mint tape, it's like a paper tape, and I'm just going to move this out a little. I'm just going to position this so that it's where I want it on my wreath, and then I'm just going to take that on. Now that this has gone green, it means that it's ready to use, so I'm going to pop this on upside down. You can see I used that for something different earlier. I'm going to pop the timer on, and when that stops flashing, then I can put it through my die cutting machine. So now that it's stopped flashing, I'm going to pull it out. I'm going to put on my shim and this because that's what works for my machine, and I'm going to go and put it through my die cutting machine. And then I'm just going to take this off, and then I can just unstick this, and then we've got our lovely shiny Merry Christmas, and I do really love that look. So then I've got a few different sizes of gold gems, and I want to put a few around my wreath. So I'm going to take my Tombow glue and my Sticks 2 pickup tool, and I'm just going to put some glue on some of the red dots and just pop a gem over the top. So then I hope you can see all the shimmer and shine that's on that now. So then I've got a 5-inch square card blank made of red cardstock. That's actually the real red from Stampin' Up. Then I've got this piece of red is 4¼ inches. This piece of glitter cardstock is an 1/8 inch bigger than that. So that's from this pack. You can see I've used a lot of mine. I've only got a very small amount of the red left. But it's the Craft Artist glitter card, so you get the copper, which is this one, the gold, the green, the red and the silver white. So really lovely colours. So then I'm just going to layer these up. Now I've got this little scrap of adhesive sheet which I'm going to cut up and use to add my red cardstock onto the gold foil sheet, because I think it's quite difficult to stick things to the gold glitter cardstock, and so this should hopefully hold it in place. And I can glue this onto the front of my card. And then there's my finished card. So for this second card I've got a 4¼ by 5½ inch card blank, and then I've got a 2-inch by 3¾ inch piece of cardstock as well. And I'm just going to use a little bit of this mint tape just to temporarily stick this into the middle of here, because I want it to be like a continuous blend between the two. I'm just bringing in some scrap paper. You can see I've used it for some blending before. And I'm going to use my cracked pistachio and pine needles Distress Oxide inks just to add some colour. And I'm going to go back in with the cracked pistachio just over those lines between the two colours. And can you see how much smoother that side is than this side? I find with the Distress Oxide inks it's easier to smooth those lines with the lighter colour. And I really like how that's looking now, so I'm going to take this off. And actually this will serve as a really good guide now, because I'm going to use some of my stamps to stamp around the outside. So I'm going to use ones from this stamp set. So I'm going to use that large one, and I'm going to use this one here. And everything in here is going to be covered up by this panel, so I only need to do around the outside where it's got colour on it. And this stamp block is slightly too small for this stamp, but because I'm not going to use the whole thing anyway, then I'm not too worried about that. And then I'm literally going to use this one just to fill in those gaps. It doesn't matter if stuff overlaps in the middle, because that's going to be covered anyway. I'm quite happy with the coverage on there. And then I'm going to use these same pens again. So I'm going to use Just Green and Hunter Green, and then I'm going to use Vineyard Berry and Heartbeat. I'm just going to colour around those images. Our coloured background and the panel that we coloured, and then I've got a piece of red glitter cardstock from that pack I showed you earlier. It's 1/4 inch small, that's 1/4 inch bigger than my panel. Then I've also cut Merry Christmas from the same cardstock, and for that I've used this Merry Christmas die from Polkadoodles. So this is quite an intricate die, so I want to use my Xyron Creator Sticker machine, and this one's quite an old version, so I'll link one in the description below, but it might look slightly different because I don't think they even do this colour anymore. So I've just put it in and I'm just pulling it through, and then I'm popping the Christmas in as well. I'm just pulling it through so they go in kind of face up, and you just literally pull it through down here, and then I can tear it off, and then you just want to press all this down, because by pressing it down you're getting all the sticky that's excess, that's not on the Merry Christmas, up onto this top piece so that you don't get any extra stickiness. And then I can pull this up, and what I'm left with is essentially a Merry Christmas sticker. So then this is the outline of the Merry Christmas that I cut. I'm going to use that to just place the stickers in, just so that I get them in the right, because with these kind of delicate dies they can kind of go in all sorts of directions, and I actually just want them to be in the same place as they were for the die. So then I'm just going to add some of these Strawberry Coulis Jewel Drops from Nuvo. I'm just going to add them on a few of these little areas, just to create a bit of dimension. I'm going to add one for the dot on the eye as well. So then I'm going to glue my Merry Christmas panel onto my glitter panel. And I have actually just used wet glue this time, so see how that goes. And actually, to be fair, it seems to be working quite nicely. This is quite a flat glitter cardstock. Not had much luck with wet glue with other glitter cardstocks, but this one seems to be holding okay. And then I'm just going to add some foam pads to the back. Then really I probably should have done this before I put those Nuvo drops on. I was kind of thinking before that I didn't want to have to stick them in under there, but actually it's a bit annoying trying to place this when the drops are still wet. So I'm just going to put a bit more on here where I've just ruined that one. And so there's that card finished. I hope you can see all the shine on that one. So then for my final card, I'm going to make a circular card. So I've got two 5-inch circles. I actually cut these out on my silhouette, but you can obviously use dies as well. I've got a 3 3/4 inch circle, and then that fits nicely with this circle that I cut out with the largest of these Polkadoodles circles dies. So I'm actually going to use the same coloured Distress Oxide inks just to colour this centre circle as I did on the last one. And you can see how nicely these blend together. And then I'm just going to dip this. I wouldn't usually use a glass of water for this. I'd usually do it in tap, but just for the sake of doing it here, so that you can see what I'm doing, I'm just squeezing that out, and then I'm just putting my hand around there just to protect what I've got behind. And I'm just doing a really big, because I want big splash. And you can see how cool that looks already changing. Now I'm just going to blot off the excess. And you can see I've kind of got this cool splattery background now. And because it takes off a lot of the colour, it actually leaves that kind of blue as well. Then while that's just drying, you can see this is the piece of cardstock that I cut those circles from. And I just want to create some flowers. So I'm using this Poinsettia set for this. And I'm going to do one of the large flowers and this leaf, but I've actually already done some. So in total, I've done 2 large flowers and 6 small flowers and 3 of the leaves once I've done these ones. So all I'm doing is just using my black Altenew ink. So it's the Jet Black Crisp ink. Just stamp them out. And then I'm colouring them using those same colours as I used for the last card. I love how rich and vibrant these colours are on these markers. And then I'm also going to take this pumpkin pie from the Space Garden set. I'm just going to use that for the centre. So then I'm just going to cut them out. And I'm just chopping off all these curly bits. Pretty, but I don't want to bother chopping around them all. And I'm also just cutting up between the petals. So I'm cutting right up to the centre between the petals. So then what I'm going to do is just use my fingers just to kind of shape those round so that they've got a bit of shape to them, and I'm going to do the same to all the petals on here. I'm just shaping them just around my finger. I mean, I'm sure if you've got all the kind of like petal shaping tools and stuff, you could absolutely use those, but I'm just literally just kind of bending them around my finger. So then here are the other ones that I've made. You can see that I've created these by offsetting two small ones on top of each other and putting some gems in the middle. So then we're going to create the big one together. So then I'm just going to cut off some pieces of foam pad because I don't want huge pieces. I put one in the middle of one of these poinsettia. And then I'm going to offset the other large poinsettia on top. And then I'm putting one in the middle of this smaller poinsettia and offsetting the other small one on there. And then I can pop the two together. And then I'm just taking some of those same gold gems that we used on the first card, and I'm using the circles that are in the centre of this flower as a guide, and I'm going to add on some gems. So you can still see some of the glue on there, but that will dry clear, so it'll be fine once it's dried. So then I'm going to use the same Merry Christmas sentiment in red hot foil as I did on the first one, just to hot foil the sentiment onto this piece here. And then in the meantime, while that's just heating up and everything, I'm just going to create my card base. So for the back of my card blank, I'm just going to line up one of my circle dies with my 1/2 inch mark on here, and I'm just going to chop that off there. And then I'm going to turn it over and line it up with the 4 inch mark here. So I'm just making sure that's nice and flat along there. And then I'm just scoring the top. So then I can fold that score line, and I can put some glue above it. And then I can glue this on. And that stands up like that. So then you can see I've got that gorgeous red shiny Merry Christmas there. So now all I need to do is quickly layer up my card. And I'm just making sure that that sentiment sits right when I stand the card up as well. And then I could just glue on these flowers. And that's that card finished. I'm really pleased with how it came out. So I'll bring in my other cards as well. So here are all my cards for today. I really hope that you've enjoyed today's video. If you did, I'd appreciate you clicking like below, and you can also press subscribe if you'd like to see future videos. If you press the bell button and select all, then YouTube will also notify you when I've got new videos available. All of the products that I've used for today's cards are listed in the description below, and there's also a link to my blog there, where you can find a picture supply list if that helps you find what you're looking for. Thank you so much for joining me today. I hope to see you again soon.